gonna start the recording here, and then yeah, we can just go ahead and get started. I'll be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about, and then once I do have something to talk about, then we will, I'll bring it up. Okay, so I like right off the bat, I like that the tech for keeping your momentum up by B hopping. So you are right above plat, right?
Yeah, like I just climbed to 60,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm more of going back and forth there, but I
Mm,
dropped to 2750.
alrighty. Yeah, good health pack, awareness. Alright, here. The thing I'm looking at is the fact that we're constantly on the Genji here, and we probably should be on the supports a lot more often, as they're going to be, the easier things to kill. Like, for example, it's much, much easier to kill Zenyatta than it is to kill a Genji, right, who has deflect and dash, and also can double jump and get healed by the other supports, whereas Zenyatta can't heal himself, and he also doesn't have movement abilities, doesn't defensive abilities. So, killing the Zenyatta is going to be probably the easiest target in the game to kill rather than the Genji, and here we're just kind of constantly going into the Genji. So yeah, that's the first thing I'm noticing right off the bat here, and then we'll continue on with target priority if that becomes an issue later on. Very nice. All right. So here looks like we got slightly too aggressive. So the big thing I'm noticing right off the bat is that we're going in when we have 300 health. So make sure that before we're re-engaging, that we're always kind of like trying to top ourselves off. So here we shoot the Genji, and this is where we kind of like go in between engagements. Like after we kind of leave them, we see our Ana's over on point here. I imagine Mercy's over here too. Yep. So what we could be doing is just request healing, stand still for a second, let them heal us up real quick, and then that way when we're going in, we actually have all of our health. But here when we do go in, we're coming in with half of our health, which means that we're gonna die extra fast. So we end up coming in at 268, and then of course we get insta melted just because we don't have that. We also go in when we don't have our shields available. So just kind of put a little bit of a break before we're going in here. We're just kind of going aggro, 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 aggro. Right when we don't have abilities and we don't have health, we should not be getting aggressive. So that's the time to play passive.
Yeah, no, I'm so used to playing around 2400 to 2500
Yep.
SR mainly. Hardly
Yeah,
get
and
time on there.
it's all about getting rid of mistakes, right? That's how you get better at the game. And you want to get out of the mentality of I'm gonna do it because I can get away with it. If you're in the mentality of I'm gonna do it because I can get away with it, then you're never gonna be able to hang out and at a higher SR. So for example, like if let's say you're 2800 right now, let's say you get into diamond, right? And people in diamond are gonna be even better than they are here. If we're doing things just because we think we can get away with it at platinum, then we're not going to be able to hang with diamond players because now the diamond players are going to be able to punish it, and we can't beat diamond if we're not playing like a diamond. So if we're trying, we want to get into good habits of um, proper aggression, ability management, and so forth, right? Like right now while we're in plat, so that we can be able to hang with diamond players by actually playing like a diamond player. But if we're just playing like super aggressive all the time because we can get away with it, that's not a good mentality to have because it's going to form bad habits.
Yeah, that's my issue. I have
Mhm.
too many bad habits.
Yep, and getting rid of those is all about how we improve the game. All right. So we'll just go on target priority real quick since this has been something that's happened quite a bit so far. The things that we do not target priority is just what do we want to shoot at. Right off the bat, tanks are not what we want to shoot at. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have shields and defensive abilities. Ball has super speed, as like it's gonna be very difficult for you to kill him. So most of the time we're not gonna want to shoot tanks. On top of that, tanks also just don't have the statistical output that other characters do. DPS do the damage, supports do the healing. Tanks, though it is a very important role and you can carry very easily on a tank, just like you can on other roles, tanks, their job is to create space for the other roles, right? So they're not the ones putting out the statistical output, right? So we want to make sure we're focusing the DPS and the supports, and in this composition, especially the supports, because if we take a look at their DPS, they have a Echo and a Genji, and you're probably going to find it pretty difficult to kill an Echo and a Genji as a ball, right? It's just not going to be very easy. So
Yeah.
Zenyatta and Ana are just going to be the ones that we want to be putting most of our attention into. But so far, we've been, like between these fights, we've gone on, Ryan to start off, and then we went on Genji for a long while. Then this fight, we're coming in, starting off shooting at the Reinhardt, right? So we're just not really going for the things that we should be going for. So on a character like Ball, who you can very easily get to the backline, there should be no excuse for that. Now, that's not to say that we never shoot at the tanks and we never shoot at the Genji and Echo, right? We shoot at them if they're low. We shoot at them if they're out of position. Like, let's say, Reinhardt was all the way up here on his own and his whole team was on point. Well, then, that's a little bit different because he doesn't have it. He's out of position there. And then we also shoot at them when they're the only thing to shoot at. Whereas on Ball, that's not really going to be a thing. I think you play some other characters besides Ball too, right? You wrote they play some Reinhardt a bit too. Reinhardt, he's not going to be instantly able to get on the supports, right? He can't just teleport to the back line. Therefore, if Reinhardt is the only thing that he can hit, go for Reinhardt. But Ball, he's pretty much able to instantly get to the back line on the support, so you don't have to worry about the front line as much on Ball because we're so speedy. We can come from the left, we can come from the right, we can just swing through them down main. We have a lot of different options and ways to just instantly get to their back line, so we have no excuse on that end to not be going for them. Does that all make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So here again, swinging through to the Reinhardt, and then okay, now we go for the Ana, but at this point we're already half HP. Okay, grabbing health packs. Yeah, and then we're out of the fight for a long time. So they're just starting off on the wrong targets gets us, real killed very fast. Gets us killed very fast. Other thing is keep in mind that there is a health pack over here, which maybe was a little bit closer than coming all the way around over this side, as well as. Okay, supports are all the way over there, so we were nowhere close to supports. So yeah, that's just maybe a health pack to go for. Yeah, the big thing in that fight was just target priority, and then again we're coming in on the Genji, whereas let's take a look. Right, Zenyatta's over here out in the open, half HP, right? We're just not really actively seeking them out when he's he's a very, very big option here. Like, let's see, where was he when we were kind of over here on this side of the map, right? He's just on the right side there. We could have saw him if we were looking around, but we're kind of tunnel visioning in on things that we shouldn't be tunnel visioning on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ah.
Okay. Now here, focusing on the Genji's honestly not the worst because he's blading. We're trying to help our team with him. But, we're just spending a lot of time staying here shooting. And we're not going to be doing very effective damage that way. Now, since these guys are the only ones left, now this is completely fine to be shooting at them. Like, we're not going to be able to shoot at the supports because they're dead. That's all fine. That's good. Alright. So was maybe the goal to, like, was the goal to spawn camp somebody because they have a ball dead? He's the only one dead, or was the goal to maybe like roll up through them and behind or something like that?
Yeah, that was my original plan, but
Then the Zen
Zen
sauce.
just
All right.
yeah.
I think that maybe we just kind of come over here slightly too early. So, for this to be effective, we should not be doing that until they're like around this area, right? Because if we did it too early, then our team's like nowhere close enough to following up. We need to be doing it when they're like around this area where our team can actually shoot at them. So the big thing here is that maybe like just don't come peek. Like we could have like sat over here for example. Like let's say for example we sat here, we could third person point of view them over there, and we can just kind of roll out of the way if we need to. We just got a little too close and weren't really as sneaky as we could have been. And we don't need to rush it because they also need to walk forwards quite a bit before we actually need to go in. So we kind of just go forwards a little too fast. Make it very easy for Zenyatta to see us, and that kind of ruins our plan. So just no big reason why we needed to be that close to him.
Right, yeah.
All right, so ball's coming over. We're swinging through. All right, so notice again how we're going in here, but it's essentially right now we're going in 1v 1 2 3, or maybe even like if these guys turn around 1v6 potentially here. Tracer can maybe come in and help us. Hanzo's nowhere near the fight. Ana's nowhere near the fight. Mercy's nowhere near the fight. Reinhardt's he can't. He's gonna have to come around left side, so he's nowhere near the fight. So potentially this is possibly like a 2v6, but just notice how we were not relying on any team coordination, right? So really here, we don't need to coordinate with our team. We don't need to do anything but sync up with them. This doesn't require any effort on their parts. It doesn't require us to communicate with them. It just requires us to wait, like to basically engage at the right timing. So like we talked about before, this would be a much different story if we waited for them to push forwards and then we engaged them like right here. We could have even, like, for example, like if we swung them this way, then that would even push them into our team, right? And into that, and we can engage faster. But instead we push them further away from our team and we mines over here, which means that we're gonna get focused really fast. I would imagine here Zenyatta's gonna trance maybe. We're going to get instantly shredded because we're getting focused by a ton of people with Discord, and we're half HP already, and our team's not going to be able to follow up on it. So I would imagine this is just going to go poorly because of where we're engaging. So we don't want to swing them backwards. We want to swing them forwards if possible, or even sideways would be another good option. Like, if we just swung them, like, if we waited an extra couple of seconds till they walked up to, like, right here, instead of swinging them this way, we could have swung off the rock and swung them this way, right? And then this would put them in line of sight of Ana, Hanzo, Ryan, and Mercy could come over here quite fast, right? And it wouldn't take them very much time in comparison to this, right? So this is just a lot of missed timing is a big one, and then not paying attention to our team. All right, so we get shredded. He trances, like I just said. Okay, and then as a result, right, deaths are always big mistakes that we're going to look to try to cut out. So we talked about how, we're looking to cut out bad habits and mistakes, and looking to cut out deaths are like, one of the biggest mistakes that we could cut out, right? Because most of the time when we die, it's not all the time that we die it can be terrible, but most of the time when we die, we're dying and we're getting 0 value. But we're also getting negative value because we're putting our team at a disadvantage. Like there, for example, we had a very big impact on losing that fight because we went in and fed and died. We gave them a bunch of ult charge. We put our team at a disadvantage because we were dead and we couldn't participate or do anything, and that put them at an advantage in the fight. So we want to look to cut out as many deaths as possible. So we look at our deaths and think, okay, why did we die? Right? That's the process of self-improvement and getting better on your own. Right? That's how I got better at the game. I was completely self-taught. Like I didn't get coaching until I had already hit my peak SR. So I went from 1800 to 4468 all on my own. And basically the process for which you do that and self-improve is to basically is a 3-step process, right? Number 1 is you identify the mistake. What did I do wrong? Right? So if we died, that's a mistake. Why did we die? Right? Maybe that time we died because we went in when we didn't have any team support, right? So then that means that is that's a little bit of awareness, that's a little bit of team coordination, right? Going in there, or at least syncing up with their team, and just some game decision stuff. And then now number 2 is we have to identify what is the solution to the mistake, or what could we have done differently. Right, so in that scenario, we did that already, right? We look at the death, we go, okay, we did this wrong. Instead, maybe we should have waited a little bit and done it where our team could have helped, right? That's the second step. Third step is the application, is trying to apply that in the future. Most of the time, the application is just going to be making sure that you're focusing on what you're doing and trying to improve on it instead of just autopiloting while you play. We'll go into that further if I bring it up at some point. But yeah, that's just how we should be looking to improve, and we just want to look to cut out our deaths here. All right, somehow we won the fight. Okay, massive. Oh, we're on speed there. Right, so far mechanics aren't looking too bad. They're looking pretty solid. Alright. And we'll skip forward to the next map. Alright, so they have a lot more stuff for us this time around. They have a Hog now for stuns, they have an Ana for stuns, they have a McCree for stuns, and the Reinhardt can also just swing and boop us around, and they also have a Discord. So we are very, very heavily contested this round. So we'll see how we adapt to that. But for the most part, that's just usually going to mean that we have to be a lot more coordinated with our dives. We can't just kind of roll through, roll through, roll through, roll through. And we're also probably going to want to slam a little bit less. Or at least pick out when is a good spot to slam, when isn't. Because if we slam, that's like kind of if we just straight up roll through their whole team, that is a lot harder to hit with a stun than if we slam straight down and kind of stop ourselves on all our momentum. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that we might not want to slam as much into a comp like that.
Okay.
All right. Again, kind of target priority. So positioning wise, ball's usually going to want to come in from the left or the right, right? This is how you get to their backline more easily. If we're just coming in through the main angle, right? This being the main angle, right? That's going to allow us to get stunned and shot at much easier, right? So if we're coming in from this angle, the McCree, the Hog, and the Ana are all going to see us coming in. They're all going to have extra time to react to us. They're all going to be shooting at us. And also, it's going to mean that we have to go through their tanks, right? If we come in from left side or right side, right, this allows us to come in at more of a surprise advantage. It's not always going to be a surprise, but it gives us more of a surprise advantage to where they're not instantly able to see us and sleep us. We're going to take less damage because we're not on the front line, so we're taking less spam, as well as they're going to have not going to be able to see us and shoot at us as easily. And then on top of that, that means that we can just instantly get to their backline without having to go through tanks. And overall, this means we're getting stunned less. Our approach was wrong, as we just kind of came in through the mid. And that didn't work out too well for us. And then as well, again, target priority as we're going on the Reinhardt and the who else? I think Reinhardt was the one we were shooting at there. But again, these are the guys we want to go on. What the heck? That's like a weird box head. In any case, yeah, we're trying to go on these guys in the back, but or even McCree is another option, but probably Zenyatta would be the easiest. Not Hog, not Tracer, not Ryan, preferably not McCree. Zenyatta would be the best. Ana would be the second best. McCree would be the third best to be going for here, right? Yet we're not going for the right targets. All right, so now McCree's out of position. He's low. Okay, that's good. Good night. Nice kill there. Okay, we're capping. Digging high ground. Oh.
Yeah, that's. I gotta get used to those grapples.
That's good. Digging high ground. They have a Pharah now. So that maybe catches us off guard slightly. You can. Did we just stand on that? I wasn't even aware we could stand on that. All right. So here, again, identifying where our team is positioned. Right. So this is coming in on awareness. So two major things. First off, pay attention to where your team is. Right. If our entire team is on point here, we get 0 support up there. When we're going in on our own, we talked about this before. Now it is a 1v1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. 1v6, not gonna work ever, right? It's just not. It's not a thing we want to do, and it's going to result in us dying, as it did last time, as it is this time. And on top of that, we have Widow and Spawn, which is down us down an extra additional player. And then finally, the other thing to pay attention to is the fact that I think the Pharah swap also caught us off guard here. Now, sometimes it is going to catch you off guard, but another part of awareness is paying attention to team compositions. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm back. I had somebody walk into the room there. So yeah, paying attention to team compositions. So what that means essentially here is in between every single fight, it's just a good habit to get into of just press tab, right? Pressing tab will let us know if they swapped characters, and swapped characters, dictate how we play the game, right? The enemy team and our team comps are gonna always change how we're approaching it. Like, this time we talked about, how we're swapping up our play style slightly because of the fact that they're on so many stuns, right? So when they're on a Pharah, we need to know that, because that means that position that changes our ability to stay up here on the high ground, right? Because she's gonna be able to easily contest us. If they had no Pharah here, this would be fine, because now they can't shoot at us on high ground, right? They can do literally nothing to stop us being up here if they're not on Pharah. But they are on Pharah, and we need to see that, so we want to press tab at the very beginning of the game. Like at the very beginning of each round, we should be paying attention to what is our comp, what is the enemy comp, because we're always going to change accordingly. So pay attention to them and think about them and how they change how they change how we're playing, right? And then I didn't finish this, so I was saying before, make sure we're paying attention to where is my team positioned, where is the enemy team positioned, right? So in-game characters, where are they at? Because this has led to 2 major mistakes so far, and then therefore 2 deaths where we just kind of fed at the very beginning of a fight, right? We die, and then therefore our team's at a disadvantage just starting off the fight, right? This is essentially, that was our impact on losing, that was our negative impact right there, and that's something we want to look to fix.
Okay.
All right, so we're coming back. So, we're down a person, therefore Ryan dies, and then we come back, and then this is already a lost fight. Okay, so we have point here, so this is all right. Probably. Okay, so a good decision to get out there. Yep, I like that. I was gonna say, like, if you didn't try to get out there, I was gonna say probably not. Don't want to contest and just feed 600 HP just for like an extra 2 seconds of point.
Yeah, no, that would be really bad.
Yep. All right. Unfortunate. Okay. Again, just notice how we're just kind of instant locking onto the tanks again. It means that we're just gonna be doing so little damage and getting so little kills just because we're not on the right things constantly. All right. Now here, this is fine. Again, it's situational. This whole thing just changed up the game. They were antied and purple and antied and shattered in 1 HP. That's different. Hog 1 HP and purple and shattered is a much easier, much better target to be on, but he's not who we want to be on initially.
Right.
All right. I think ability usage might need to be something we're gonna need to work on slightly. Like this thing looked a little bit awkward. I think we thought we had our slam here.
Yeah, I was gonna go for a slam, but I
Yeah,
don't think
like
I
off
had
this
it.
high ground. So yeah, we thought we had a slam, but like here I think we jumped off thinking we had slam, and then we're like, oh snap, we don't have slam. Then we rolled around, and then we kind of slam awkwardly up here to the high ground. So we just want to pay attention to our abilities, make sure we're not. That's just one that you're gonna get used to as you keep playing them. All right. So we have our ults. Very nice. But again, they swapped their comp up completely. On top of that, pay attention to where is the whole enemy team, right? Not just we can't just tunnel vision on Hanzo, because if we tunnel vision on Hanzo, that could get us killed here. Because if we're not paying attention to the fact that they have 5 players alive and coming back, they may end up feeding again and dying at the very beginning. So we really need to pay attention to where the enemy team is, because then they body block us and we die. Okay, so once again, die at the beginning of the fight. Survivability is seeming like a big thing to work on. As when we're dying constantly, that's going to put us at a big disadvantage. All right,
Right.
so yeah, we want to look at cut out our deaths. Just to go even further into that note, right? When we die, we lose 10 seconds of respawn time, and now Ball's gonna be coming back a little bit faster, but we'll still say like roughly like 5. Usually it's like 10 seconds on other characters. We'll say like 5 seconds of walk back time, right, to get back to the fight. So that's like 15 seconds per death you have, right? Where you're putting your team at a negative advantage and doing literally nothing. Right? That adds up over time, right? You do that. So far, we've had that happen multiple times, and some deaths are also much worse than other deaths, right? Like for example, these past 2 deaths that we had and the death we had before, all these deaths have been at the very beginning of fights, and we were the first person who died. There's a big difference between being the first person who dies and the last person who dies. If you're the first person who dies, you just put your team at a very negative, at a big disadvantage, right? Your team's now at a disadvantage. You're more likely to lose, and we lose all our value. If you're the last person to die, that means we've probably already lost the fight by then, right? If you're the last person, you've lost that fight, right? Which means that you dying at that point is not as big of a deal. So some deaths are more important than others, and it's not. I don't think it's necessarily the quantity. At the moment, like you only have I think 4 deaths so far. That's honestly not 2 or maybe 5, something like that. Maybe 4 or 5, right? That's not terrible, but it's could be much better if you're at like 2. And you also want to work on not dying at the very beginning, because that's happened at the very beginning of fights, because that's happened 3 times at the very least, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Right, so survivability is something you really, really want to focus on because that's gonna mean that you're just doing a whole lot more. Oh, just on when you see he's that low, just just to get as soon as you boop him, get out of the grapple and just shoot him. So like here we go, we see his health bar, right? We go boop and then we just immediately D-ball and shoot him because that kills him there. But we stay in the ball form too long. Massive shatter by your Reinhardt. Probably could have slammed there.
I think I had it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you did. All right. So let's say we have our ult. Are we gonna use it? Again, kind of maybe approaching from the frontal angle where we could be doing something different. All right, so we're gonna talk about our ult now. So a couple different things with our ult. All right. First off, we're going to talk about how to know whether or not you are winning or losing a fight and how to tell that, right? And then that's going to dictate when we're using our ults. So when big part here is again it's awareness, which awareness is seeming like a well after we're done this, I'll do a quick strengths and weaknesses, but awareness is seeming like it's pretty high at the moment of needing to be worked on. But we want to make sure we're paying attention to the kill feed. The kill feed is the top right corner of your screen. It's going to show you when you're up or down people. When you are up 1 to 2 people, that's an advantage. When you have an advantage, you can play more aggressively because they have less people to punish you, less people to shoot at you, and yada yada, right? So forth. When you are up 2 to 3 people, that means that you have pretty much won the fight. If you've already won a fight, then ulting would just be overkill, right? It does nothing. And you're just wasting the ultimate. Now, on top of that, you want to get super aggressive so that you can look to go push forward and get stagger kills on the enemy team, right? But this also goes the exact opposite way. When we are down 1 to 2 people, that is a disadvantage. Now, we didn't lose the fight yet, but we are losing the fight, so we are going to play more passive, right? When we are down 2 to 3 people, that is where we have lost the fight. At that point, we don't want to use ults because if we ult in a lost fight, that is going to mean that we just wasted it. It's not going to change the fact that we're losing. And they're probably still going to win the fight anyways. Now, when we've lost a fight, we want to look to get out if possible. And if we don't think we can get out, we want to let them kill us. Now, in this, like right here, in this moment when we ult, all right, let's see this again in a moment. All right, so when we're ulting here, let's go to the moment right before we ult. Right. So right before we ult, the first thing I'm seeing is that we're down 3 people. Right. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3. Right. This means that at this point we are at a massive disadvantage, and even if this is still winnable, we still need to be very hesitant with it, right? This is the point where we could still potentially use it here, but we just need to be very hesitant about using it. But in a moment, so basically here, like if we wanted to, we see that Zen's 1, Hanzo's half, Ana's there. This would have been a perfect moment to roll over here, jump off the edge, ult and then slam, right? And then that would have been fine. That I would have said that was perfect. But the problem is here that we kind of roll right up next to the hog and then start shooting at the hog, which again is the target priority, right? We start shooting at the hog, and then at this point we are 100 HP. Now this is swapped up the fight, right? And that is paying attention to our health bar, right? When we are 1 HP, we can assume that we're probably going to die in a second here. We're most likely going to die, and therefore that also puts us down another player. So when we're 1, probably is not going to be a good idea to ult because we're not going to be able to follow up on it, right? There's a lot of things that go into whether or not you're winning or losing, right? Another part of that, like that's why 2 is the middleman. It goes 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, right? 2 is the middleman because there's a bunch of stuff that goes into whether or not you're winning or losing, right? One of those things is how much health does every player have, right? Hanzo doesn't have health, but he's also not in danger. You don't have health, you are in danger, about to die. So that puts your team at another disadvantage, right? There's a bunch of other things, right? Which team has better positioning? Which team has more health? Which team has more ultimates? Which team is using more ultimates? Right? You could be down a bunch of people, but use 4 ults and come bring it back. So there's just a bunch of things that go into that. Here, I would probably say that you're most likely going to lose this fight right now. If I were to glance at this and say which team is about to win, it'd probably say you guys are about to lose, and that means that this ult is just ends up getting wasted. So let's just watch it real quick. All right, we ult. We're 30 HP. Somehow Hog doesn't shoot at us, but honestly, I would say that that's an example of just because a mistake is not punished does not mean it's not a mistake, right? Just because Hog does not hit one shot on us, right? Here, if we
Right.
go to his perspective, I don't know why he didn't shoot at us there, or if because it looks like he didn't even shoot. All right, so he goes shoot, shoot, hook, shoot, and you ult, and then he just doesn't shoot. Okay, he misses it. Okay, so let's say that he hits that one extra shot or two extra shots. Just a couple extra pellets means you die, right? At a higher rank, just a couple hundred SR up, you die there, right? And therefore, that becomes a mistake. So I would probably say that that's an example of a mistake just not being punished. So in that instance, we were just, I would say we're too low to go for it. Now you get some players back. This is actually becoming winnable now that you got that pick of it online, and Genji's half, and then Genji dashes in mine. So now this is a winnable fight. Right? The tides have changed, which can happen. It's more so the fact that it's a percentage chance, right? There's always going to be a chance that you can win. Like there could be a 10% chance you're going to win, but you want to compare the kind of risk reward. If you have a 10% chance of winning, it's most of the time it's going to be better to come back in with a 55% chance of winning because now you have your ultimate and you have an ult advantage, right? But if you're ulting in a fight where you have a 10% chance of winning, right, then that's just, yeah, you could win it, but you're better off coming into the next fight when you can just hold on to your ult for the next fight. Make sure that when you're low, there we kind of look like we kind of AFK for a second.
Oh yeah, no, I was sneezing.
Sneezing.
Yeah.
It's funny. All right. On top of that, sorry, the other thing I was going to say with ultimates is make sure that we are using so if we're not, basically when it comes to ults, we're using it in any fight that we have not won or lost yet, right? But we also want to look to use them early, right? When we use an ult earlier in a fight, we get more value out of them. So for example, let's say that we ult sorry, I'm rethinking this of how I'm going to say it. So starting over, let's say that there's an enemy team on a ball, right? This is just an easy analogy to go through this. They have a
Yeah.
ball, he has mines. The ball comes in mines before you use your mines. He gets kills, he gets damage. Therefore, when you use mines, you have less team follow-up and you have less support, and it also is just not going to get as much value because you did it second. So the other thing on top of that is if you are using it late or mid fight or late fight, that's also going to increase your chances of already losing the fight before you get a chance to use your ult. If you use your ult, you could win the fight off your ult, but if you hold on to it until late fight, they could end up winning before you even get a chance to use it, right? And then therefore it's wasted. So, or you are forced to hold on to it, which just means that you lose the fight. So make sure you're using your ult early in fights, not insanely early. You don't want to use it too early, like that. For example, the other one we did use it too early, but we want to use it as the fight is starting, not mid fight, not late fight, which is kind of how we used it here. I would actually categorize like this is like a super long fight, or even like kind of two fights, even. Um, so yeah, quick strengths and weaknesses since we're like halfway through here. So far, I think ability management is slightly inconsistent, but for the most part, you're pretty good with it. Honestly, no, not too much of an issue with our slams and grapples and shielding. So ability management, okay, not the best, but also just isn't terrible. All right, ultimate usage is needing a lot of work. As I've only seen two so far, but both of them seem pretty poor. Like the first one we kind of fed with it. The second one here we got 2 kills with it, but I honestly think that the timing was pretty whack. And then the only reason why I got value was because Hog missed 2 shots on us. And then that just was not really necessarily us making a good decision, but more so just Hog missing us. And then when we were, a big tank right in his face. And then moving on to awareness, I think awareness is probably one of the biggest things that we're looking at the moment, as there's a whole bunch of awareness issues that are coming up, from paying attention to our team to kill feed to paying attention to our health to paying attention to where everyone's in, to paying attention to compositions, right? So there's a bunch of different awareness things that are making big mistakes, and then positioning usually isn't too much of a thing on ball, but that is a I'll say just positioning to the side of people is kind of like a tiny thing here, and making sure we're not on the front, coming in from the front line. And then finally is mechanics. Mechanics I think is going to be in the middle here, as we don't really seem to be struggling with like just hitting mechanical shots, but I usually do include target priority as a part of mechanics. So target priority is a big massive issue, so that's why mechanics is probably going in the middle here.
Okay.
All right. I don't think that I'm seeing enough slams. It's a very powerful cooldown, and we're not using it very often. So, um, I was saying that we might want to slam less, but they also got off the McCree and they got off the Reinhardt, so that's even less CC for us. So they just are down to a Hog Hook and a Ana Sleep, and that's it. So as long as we know that we're not gonna die using it, we don't have to just never use our slam. We want to still be using it, and we seem to be not using it very often here. It seems to be coming up pretty infrequently. Like we use it here, and then you're gonna notice like okay, we get it back, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4 Mississippi, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, and then we die. It just seems like we're using it a little bit infrequently, and when it is a powerful cooldown, and you probably want to use it as often as possible because it does the most damage out of anything in your kit, besides your ult, of course. It does like 100 damage exactly. So you're gonna get a whole lot of burst potential out of that, as well as grouping them up. So we just want to look to use them more often because it doesn't look like we're using it very often. So we can kind of
Yeah,
look at
that's
that in,
true.
yeah, you kind of look at that in the next fight as well, just see like how often we're using it. All right. I'm focusing hog, right? Right. Slamming on the Genji, trying to get out. All right. So target priority there, coming in from different angles. You're a very speedy character. You can come in from this side and then just immediately get to the back line. You can take out turret and then do stuff that also sucks because they're on the Torb now, which is even worse for you. Right now they're on a pretty hard counter comp to you, and they've been on a hard counter comp to you the whole time. They had McCree, now they're on Torb, they had a Hog, they've been Ana, so they had a lot of stuff, and Zenyatta, of course, also is a big counter to, as weird as that sounds, Zenyatta and Ball are kind of like counters to each other. I'd probably say it's kind of like a Widow matchup, where like Widow is a counter to Widow. Um, so it's kind of weird. Zenyatta and Ball both counter each other. Zenyatta is very easy to kill by Ball, but it also goes the exact other way. Ball's very easy to kill by Zenyatta, and the orb bursts Ball down so insanely fast. On top of that, Zenyatta can also trance your mines and just break them up very easily, so that's a big counter to your ult. So just, right now they're on a big counter comp, and I think, like from what you said, you do play other characters quite frequently. Like you have Ryan 100 hours on Ryan, Sigma. You play Sigma a little bit. You play Winston a little bit. So this would just maybe be a situation where I would be swapping up the composition a little bit. Okay, so in this comp, maybe you're okay. So I'd say Sigma would probably just be better pick um, than Ball in this instance, because Sigma would be a good counter dive with his rock potential. Um, like
True.
even going for an off tank here would probably be better than Ball. Though of course that's up to you and what you want to do. If we're on Ball here, so I'm going to continue to coach you as if we're playing on Ball here. But just from my opinion, this might have been a good situation to swap up characters. But we're gonna still continue on as if we're on Ball, because we are on Ball.
Yeah.
Did I get out of you? Oh, I was out of you. I thought I was still on you. I was confused there for a second when you weren't respawning. All right, so another death at wait, did we die? Yeah, we died there, right? Another death at the very beginning of a fight.
Yeah.
Focusing the tanks immediately as we come out here, positioning on top of them. Focusing the tanks. Not using slam. right? Focusing the tanks, dying, right? So, and then why did we die here? Like, we can kind of look at these stats. Not every death is something to get off of, but like a good 75% of them, you're gonna be able to improve off of and fix something, right? Here, probably just maybe shouldn't have been. I think just the fact that we're on point and the fact that we're just sitting on point shooting is what kills us. It's just the fact that uh, we're sitting out in the open in a place where literally their entire team can shoot at us, right? Uh, Ball is not the kind of a spam character. You're not going to want to just. The only time you're really using your guns is if you don't have your cooldowns and you're just kind of sitting back waiting for them to come up. You're just shooting from like back here, for example. Or if somebody's low and you're finishing them off, or right after you slam, or after you do a combo, you're using your guns. Here, this is not a situation where we should be gunning. We should not be out in the open on point. We shouldn't be shooting at monkey, and because of all these situational things that we're doing, we get melted as a result, right? So there's kind of that all added up into us getting shredded. Keep in mind as well that even on like it's a little bit less applicable on ball because most of the time you're already around cover, but just keep in mind that cover usage is a thing. So good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. So when we are right here, there's no cover anywhere. Therefore, we get shot at, we die. If we're standing over here, we get shot at, and it takes us half of a second to duck behind cover, right? From here, they can no longer see us. They can't shoot through walls. Therefore, this is much better positioning. So just make sure we're not standing out in the open on point shooting at nothing.
Okay.
All right? Just a lot more shooting at tanks this round. All right, and then we touch. Here we kind of do a weird pause, and that maybe ruins our ability to. So like here, the plan should preferably. So we kind of lost our momentum there because we paused, but preferably. Okay, so because of that pause, like I don't know what we did there for the pause. Maybe we thought we were gonna lose, but that pause kind of ruins our plan here. Preferably, what we would be doing is rolling up here, going to the high ground, slamming, and then that slam should hopefully do enough damage to get you your ults. But you coming in main is just meaning that you're rolling through people, and that means that you don't actually get enough to, you know, ult. And on top of that, even if you do get ult, it's just not as effective because you don't. It's not a slam into it, right? So you just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
slamming here. Again, make sure we're using more often. Keep in mind that you can slam off of almost anything in the game. You can slam off of most ledges. You can slam off of this ledge. You can slam off of this ledge. You can slam off the high ground. You can slam off of this ledge. You can slam off of this ledge. Right? You can slam off of this ledge. Right? You can roll off of this stairway and slam. Pretty sure you can slam off of the high ground here. Right? You can slam off of pretty much anything. So even without a grapple, right? Grapple's not always going to be needed, and if it's an option, it's almost preferable that you don't use grapple, because if you don't use grapple, that means you have grapple to get away. It means that you have it to get out, or to even follow up with more damage and roll through them after you slam. But if we're never slamming here, and we're not doing, and that means that we're lacking out on a big amount of our damage potential. It also groups them up and makes them easy for our DPS to kill people. All right. Now here we're okay. So we back up for a second. Nice. Good ult. Alright, we kind of recovered a little bit there at the end. We backed off for enough time to get our ult up, and then we tried. So it was a valiant effort there at the end. Alright, so we're coming out here. So right off the bat, something we could do is like they're probably not. You come out really fast. We could go for like an opening slam on something. Like for example, like here we could just like roll up over here and like slam the tanks and then get away, or like because these guys are gonna be aren't gonna be able to help, right? Or we could like roll right up here and they might not even notice us because we're behind them at that point, right? We can just kind of set up in a good spot. From here, you can roll. If they come left, we can roll up on this thing and slam off of that. If they go right, we can roll up on this thing and slam over that. If for example, Hanzo or Torb are lagging real far behind, we can wait a couple seconds until they walk forwards, and then maybe slam the Hanzo and pick off the Hanzo because he's on his own, right? So we want to actively seek out the things that we can look to punish and get rid of. This would just be a good spot to maybe start off in rather than just kind of sit in main, not really doing much. Okay, so we roll him off high ground. That's a decent idea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Reinhardt doesn't get booped very far. focusing tanks, right? Coming on the main angle, monkey, 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 right? It's just a lot of wrong shooting stuff. Just keep in mind our goal, target priority is gonna be a very massive thing. Honestly, like let's just if I'm like in my head right now, I'm gonna do this at the very end of the session of give you like the main points, but I'm actually just gonna like at the moment remove mechanics as a category, which usually I have mechanics as a category, but I'm gonna remove it as a category and just make it flat out target priority because that's just such a massive thing here that's affecting our entire play style. When we're shooting at the tanks, we're playing an entirely different game than if we're shooting at the supports and the DPS, and we're just kind of approaching it. Our fundamental approach to the game is just off here, and then that's impacting a ton of things from our survivability to our damage output to the amount of kills we're getting to the amount of ult charge we're getting, right? And it's all coming from the fact that we're just starting off shooting at the wrong things. Alright. Good kill on the Torb. Getting healed up real quick. Nice. I like that. Oh, didn't mean to skip there. Really good. Okay, there. That was perfect. What we did was we went all the way around, right? We have very high mobility, so we can do this on ball. Right, I'm just going to break this down real quick. Why this is so good is we go around, we boop them up from behind, which puts them out of position, and it like ball's job, right? As a tank, right? He's not just a DPS character on a tank role, right? Ball does do tanking, right? Like we talked about before, the job of a tank is to create space for their team.
Right.
How Ball does that is he acts as a disruptor. He boops them around, he slams them, he's a distraction, and therefore that confuses the enemy team. The slam makes it easier. The boops people out of position and boops people off high grounds and boops people into pits and boops people into ults and whatnot. He can slam people to better combo abilities to get them above shields, to do a bunch of group damage, and then he also just acts as a good distraction for the backline. So that is how Ball does his tanking, and it's a pretty unique style because not many other characters do that. Like I'd probably say the closest character to being a disruptor would maybe be like Monkey, especially like when he's ulting. But besides that, not many other characters I would maybe classify as a disruptor class, right? Or like play style. Here, this is we execute this perfectly because we're approaching from behind. No one's gonna be able. You see how like there's a very big difference from doing this from behind and doing this from here. From here, we are soaking up a ton of damage. They all see us coming. We're gonna get hooked, bashed, slept, right, and we're gonna die instantly. Here, they don't see us coming. Therefore, when we come in, this allows us to come in perfectly. We grapple in, get some height. We slam, perfect. We're actually using our slam, and then what this does is it keeps them in the dragon longer, or at least it groups them up, right? It slams them together, groups them up, makes it easier for our team to come in and punish them and shoot at them. So this is played perfectly. This is how you want to look to approach most of your fights.
Okay. And I think, yeah, kill the hog.
Uh, for some reason you sound quieter than before. I'm just gonna turn you up real quick. All
Oh,
right.
I think it's my mic. It has some issues.
All right. So then you notice like right at what are you even doing back here? All right, so you notice like right after we do that very massive play, and like this is just how you can like again self improvement is when you see that you do something bad, you try not to do the bad thing again, right? But when you see that you do something good, try to do that good thing again, right? This is how you learn and improve at the game is by experience. That's how you learn through experience, right? Is by when you do something bad, you don't do the bad thing. When you do something good and you see that you had success doing something, try to replicate that and do it again. So here, we had that massive play where we just kind of played it perfectly there and we won the fight as a result and we didn't die, we didn't take damage, we did a bunch of damage, right? But then we immediately kind of don't do that again and we kind of sit main, like super far back here and we're not spamming in to do damage. And then we kind of roll up through the main angle, and then we come in through the front, and then miss it, and then now we decide to go to the right side. So that's just kind of a weird, like, time where we just didn't really do anything. I don't even know what we were attempting to do there, right? But it was just make sure, oh, enemy is double skip backwards. Make sure we're just constantly trying to do things. Where were we even at? Okay, I guess we were like right here.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. Okay, so actually we're going to leave here so that we can do the end of the session stuff. So we're going to do a quick review over everything we talked about, and then go over what are the main points for the session, and then finally go over do the wrap, like kind of wrap up the session. Right. So abilities, honestly not too terrible. Make sure that I probably say nothing to do with shields. I wouldn't say there's anything to work on with shield usage, and usually that's not too difficult of an ability to use. The only thing I'd say, like, usually maybe anybody struggles with is just using it, but you're fine with that. Grapples, honestly, like, you maybe like just need to get a little bit better at them, but like that's not really something. You don't have anything wrong with your technique per se. You don't really have anything that I can teach you. It's you're gonna get better with it when you get more of a feel for it. So just keep practicing at that. It's just slightly inconsistent. Sometimes we end up running into stuff. And then, but I would say that slam is the one that we need to work on the most out of all of those. Is make sure we're slamming more often, right? You can slam off of most of anything, right? Take a look at the slam on the bottom right. You can see when you go off of something that it comes off a cooldown there. It goes from red to being white. So just pay attention. You can do this off of pretty much anything. We can do it from here. We can do it from here, jumping off of this. We can even do it like right here, right? Jump off of this thing, and we can actually slam, right? We can do it off of the any edge there is. We can do it off of any high ground there is. Of course, those are really high, right? We can do it off of the stairway when we do this. We can do it off of this ramp. We could do it off of this ramp right here. Actually, can we? Maybe if we do it on the stairway here, right? We do it off of that. You can do it off of this little thing right here, right? Just random objects sitting around, right? You can slam off of. And if you have literally nothing and you're trying to instantly slam, right? You can do something like this, where we, I can't. This has a tech name to it, but you can roll backwards. So let's say we're in the middle of point and there's nothing anywhere, right? We would roll backwards, jump, and grapple at the exact same time. So roll backwards, jump, and grapple, and then you can slam off of that. Right? So do that one more time, and then I think you can maybe fit an ult in there. Let's see if you can fit an ult in there. Now that I have it. So roll backwards, jump and grapple. I forgot to fit my ult in there, so I didn't do that, but it's fine. You get the point. Right, moving on to ults. Ults is pretty big thing here. Make sure they're putting a lot of effort into your ults, and mainly the big thing with our ults is the timing of them, as well as target priority is going to be slightly in there, because, you know, at least I saw us use 2 single ults, right? One of them we just used on a single hog, right? And then Genji accidentally dashed into it. So
Yeah.
that was one thing to watch out for. But then the other thing is, make sure that we're not ulting when we've won or lost a fight. Make sure we're ulting early in fights, right? And then make sure we're not ulting too early in fights, right? We want to ult. There's a poke phase in a fight, and then the fight starts, right? So the poke phase is when both teams are just sitting really far away from each other and they're just kind of shooting at each other. When the fight starts is when picks start getting traded, or both teams start getting kind of near each other, right? They're kind of like on top of each other. When we're doing it when nobody can help follow up with us, we're just going to die. We're not going to be able to kill anything because our team can't follow up on any of the damage we do. Now moving on to mechanics. Honestly, we're not going to talk anything about mechanics, right? It's just all target priority. Make sure you're not shooting at tanks. Make sure you're not shooting at the difficult things to kill, right? So you're not going to want to focus Genji. You're not going to want to focus Echo. Not going to want to focus Pharah. Not going to want to focus Reaper, right? But we can focus Hanzo. We can focus like McCree if he's an option. Junkrat, right? All the squishy targets that are easy to kill, right? You can go for Widowmaker, right? You can go for Ashe, but you're not going to want to go. You can go for maybe Bastion sometimes. So you're not going to want to go for Doomfist too often. You're not going to want to go for Meg because they have abilities that can keep themselves alive, right? Don't go for the hard things to kill. Go for the easy things to kill, right? So make sure you're keeping your target priority right and on the right things. Go for the DPS and supports, especially supports, right? Now, that's going to impact a ton of parts of your play. Positioning real quick, make sure you're not going through the main angle, but instead we're coming from like the side, right? This way we can have less people looking at us and contesting us, and this allows us to get in without getting instantly stunned and shot at, and it means that we can instantly get past the tanks into their backline, right? Finally, moving on to awareness. This one is as well very massive, so we'll go around everything here real quick. HUD watching, just make sure you're paying attention to your health bar, and when you are low, make sure you're putting yourself in line of sight of your team, and you're not going in when you are low, and also request healing when you're low, right? That way your supports know where you are, and you get healing faster. Other than that, no other problems with HUD watching. Make sure that we are paying attention to kill feed, right? As a quick reminder, when we are up 1 to 2 people, or up or down 1 or 2 people, is a advantage or disadvantage. Should we play aggressive or passive accordingly? When it's a 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. No ults in a won or lost fight. And then also look to play super aggressive to get stagger kills, and you want to look to get out if you can, or look to, if you can't get out, right, let them kill you so you don't get staggered. I forgot to ask this when we went through it, but are you familiar with the term staggering?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when someone's completely overextended and you just let them live, waste time, and then kill them when they're
Yeah,
completely through.
it doesn't have to be that complicated. Usually it's just that it's just a very in simple terms, it's just when somebody dies late, right? When someone dies late, that means that, like, basically if yeah, the team has two options. If we wait for them, then you've just wasted a bunch of time. If you don't wait for them, then you've wasted time, or then you didn't necessarily waste time. You wasted a little bit of time, but then on top of that, you also are putting your team at a disadvantage, and they're walking in where they're down a person, right, or down multiple people. Or sometimes staggering could also be if they're walking in one by one, right, and that starts what you call stagger trains, when one person walks in and they die, and then the next person walks in and they die, and then the next person walks in and they die, right? That's a stagger train, and that starts by you staggering. So make sure you're not staggering, and then you also want to force the enemy team to stagger by making sure you're pushing them aggressively when you're winning, right?
Okay.
Now, as well on awareness, big one. Make sure we're paying attention to where our team's at and sync up with your team. That doesn't mean that we have to necessarily communicate. Doesn't mean that we have to do any. They don't have to do anything. We just want to make sure that we're not going in when none of our teammates are with us, right? So if our team is like all the way over there, we're not gonna go in and ult, right? That's not something we do, right? Because then we just get we feed and we die and they kill us, right? Make sure we're paying attention to where the enemy team is as well. And then that is pretty much it for awareness, I believe. Oh, and then compositions, right? Make sure we're paying attention to comps, as that dictates how we play. Right, we're going to be playing differently against each comp. So take a look at the team comps right as you're coming out of spawn, and then press tab in between every single fight. Okay. Now, main points, like what are the main points you want to work on? Probably going to say number one is going to be, trying to think. I'm going to put number one at target priority, or sorry, yeah, target priority, because that seems like a pretty since it's just one thing, it's going to be pretty. You should be able to fix that decently fast, instead of like awareness. Awareness is coming in at number two, where there's a lot of different stuff you have to work on. So target priority, you're going to be able to get out of the way real quick, and it's also really important. It's affecting like a large portion of your play style, right? So target priority is number one, awareness is number two. The awareness, I probably would say, has an accumulative more, more things to work on, and is probably more important in total. I would say that, like I said, it's going to be slightly easier to work on the other, so therefore you can just get it out of the way real quick, right? um,
Right.
Now, yeah, like I said, so number one, target priority. Two, awareness. Three, I'm going to say ult usage. Four is going to be ability usage, and then number five is going to be positioning. Those last two aren't terrible. Honestly, they're the best that we have. They just need a little bit of work. All right. Do you have any questions about anything we've gone over?
Um, for the next session, do you want me to still use the same old replays that I played as?
The extra one you have?
Yeah.
You probably want to get like an up-to-date one, right? Like especially if you're still trying to go over ball. Like if it's on a completely different character, then it doesn't really matter too much. But if you're trying to go over balls particularly, or even like tanks, you'd probably want to get an up-to-date one. That way, like if you've improved at all, we're not going over the exact same stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, a lot of the stuff's going to be, most of the time when you do coaching, it's applicable across multiple characters. For example, like awareness is something that goes across every character. Now, and target priority is something that goes across every character. Now, it's gonna ability usage and ult usage can be slightly different, but the same principles are gonna apply. Like with our ultimate, it's all about timing, and those same timing principles are gonna apply to all characters, right? So even if you're going over different characters, then you still probably want an up-to-date one. All right. Any other questions?
Let's see. Um, can we schedule one session where it's at a completely different role?
Yep,
Or
100%. Now, like in general, like I probably say, like the thing I would say to that right off the bat is that most time it's a good idea to focus on one role, but that is completely up to you because it really depends on where your priorities with the game are. If you're just playing the game to have fun and you want to play different roles to have because you have fun doing that, then go ahead and do it. But if you're trying to if you're coming from a pure improvement or climbing standpoint, it's going to be more effective to play one role and practice one role because they have different play styles, they have different abilities and ults, and spreading yourself thin between two different roles can mean that you're not really learning as fast as you could be. Now, like I said, that's out of everything that I said today, that's going to be the most on you to decide. That's very subjective, a subjective answer to the question or whatever. Like it's up to you. It's not I take it or leave it. That's kind of your decision.
Okay.
But yes, I can coach a different role. All right,
I'll just
anything
go
else?
for. I think that's all the questions I have for now.
All right. Well, then I'm going to end the